Greetings and welcome to another edition of Alusine Multicultural Family Consulting. It's always a pleasure to be here to share my thoughts because I love my audience. So, a way to work with me is to subscribe to YouTube. All you do is state my name, Dr. Alusine Kanu, and then hit the button subscribe. When you do, it shows an appreciation of the feedback I get when I keep producing information for our common good. For today's topic, I'm gonna talk about my most recent occupational classification, and that is Pastoral Community Counseling. I've earned a Doctor of Education in Pastoral Community Counseling from the Sarasota campus of Agassiz University. So my goal for today is to inform you about the discipline of pastoral community counseling from an expert point of view, from a research point of view, from a communicative point of view, with the goals of sharing what I think is important. A way to look at pastoral community counseling is to think about how we reduce uncertainties. There are many problems, issues that affect all of us. For me, why I chose to study pastoral community counseling, if I may self-disclose, it's like everybody goes on a journey from my childhood to my youth to international settings. I'm now more satisfied because I majored in pastoral community counseling. There are many career experiences I've gone through. I'm a college professor, but my current career goal is to work in pastoral community counseling, where I think I can help individuals, families, businesses, government agencies, in whatever needs we identify. So a way for me to talk about the details of pastoral community counseling is to share my research. My research asks the question, what factors lead to decision to select pastoral community counseling? This was my final defense in the dissertation that addressed the question. My dissertation committee was Laura Cunningham, PhD, and Bori Voji, PhD. In looking at what pastoral community counseling is, the problem is there are many stereotypes that contribute to misperceptions about pastoral community counseling. Another problem is the practice of pastoral community counseling is not well understood by those who need the services. So the plan in my dissertation was to discuss the background of the problem, to review relevant literature with a qualitative research methodology. My methodology led me to conduct semi-structured interviews with about 10 pastoral counselors, and I developed the material and I analyzed the results of the study. The research questions I posed were: what factors lead to decision to select pastoral community counseling? Question 2 was, to what extent are clients aware of pastoral community counseling before seeking such services? The third research question was, do individuals who receive pastoral community counseling perceive that using such services deepens their faith? The study is significant in many aspects because the role of a pastoral counselor is important. So there should be greater awareness by community to promote goals of pastoral community counselors. When a person obtains benefits from spiritual practices which pastoral community counselors provide, they can understand their spiritual self. The way we look at pastoral counseling is that we can understand the world we live in. We can have and provide explanations when we look at ways pastoral community counseling works. Because some clients feel comfortable when religious and spiritual beliefs are an aspect of counseling, the worldview of counseling should be understood. So the learning I want to impart on this topic is that when we look at pastoral community counseling, it's a unique and a dynamic practice. Pastoral counseling occurs in all contexts, anywhere, at any time. A pastoral counselor is active. Pastoral counseling involves counseling, helping the person. It involves the use of language to communicate with the client. And most of all, pastoral community counseling involves God's guidance. So when you research spiritual development and when you research psychology, you can see that a pastoral community counselor has a dual identity, a spiritual guider as well as a counselor. So a pastoral counselor is an advocate. My literature review on this study provides that when we understand pastoral counselors, there is personal awareness, there is genuine relationship to God Almighty, we have effective social relationships, we develop self-awareness, and we engage in cultural inclusion. Pastoral counselors are ways we celebrate life and faith. The pastoral community counselor works with individual families and communities. The pastoral counselor helps or guides in the individuals towards greater wholeness in themselves and in their relationships with others. The practice of Pastoral Community Counseling, PCC, has self-awareness because a pastoral counselor has spiritual gifts and helps others to develop self-realization. Some call a counselor a lay Christian or a Christian psychologist or a spiritual director or clergy or in education. Pastoral community counseling has informed spiritual values. We explore the spiritual as well as the counseling. We have empathic counseling. We take the perspective of the client. We offer religious counseling. We offer psycho-spiritual counseling. Most pastoral counselors are credentialed by governing bodies or by professional associations. Pastoral community counselors have access and relationships to clients outside the formal dialogue or counseling setting. Whether pastoral or counseling, all client relationships involve trust and empathy. Pastoral counselors provide services in churches, in mosques, in hospitals, in nursing homes, in correctional facilities, in community centers, in military bases, and more. So the choice between a pastoral community counselor or clinical counselor is a matter of the client preference. A good way to understand, the positionality, in other words, the practices of pastoral counselors. One is the use of genograms. Sometimes with a client, you construct a family tree. You discuss the history of the family, the relationships, the generations, the traditions, the customs, the rituals of the family. Sometimes by constructing a genogram, that's a way to counsel from a pastoral community sense of view. Another is education. You assess the client's needs, their career goals, and you help them to develop. Another is occupation. You select a topic and you educate the relevancy of that topic to the client. So pastoral counseling is multicultural counseling. We counsel anywhere, at any time. Pastoral community counseling also deals with narrative therapy. Sometimes the stories people tell, sometimes their description of events can be a source of counseling. Pastoral counselors engage in marriage and family therapy. They engage in cognitive. We adjust the functioning of the thinking so that the person will be in equilibrium. We do child and adolescent counseling. So my future goals I've established Alusine Multicultural Family Counseling. It's on the web, and my webpage is alusinekanu.com. There are objective variables when it comes to understanding pastoral community counseling. One, based on documented findings, based on method, based on context of research. The practice is having validity. There is factual meaning when you study pastoral community counseling. My approach was to use semi-structured interviews in my study, and I interviewed 10 pastoral community counselors. I designed the interview semi-structured, the research problem, the sample size, the data collection. My methodology was a problem-solution approach. People don't understand what a PCC does. So my approach was to promote what a PCC is. And the practices of a PCC and dealing with the research context of consistency, reliability, and validity. So the analysis of the data after I asked pastoral counselors several questions we are presented with diversity of ideas. And the research questions drew on many possibilities: content analysis, textual analysis, and interpretation. My methodological analysis is sequential, concurrent, and transformative. So a PC is someone who is respectful of all religious beliefs. We study the Muslim religion, the Christian religion, the Buddhist religion. We respect all religious beliefs. We view the spiritual dimensions of life. Sometimes the person can be understood based on their spiritual dimension. We deal with one's emotional, mental, and relational health. A pastoral community counselor addresses family concerns with ministerial ethics. You can find them in weddings, when someone is sick, when someone needs spiritual formation, when someone has a crisis, when someone has a crisis to grow, and when someone needs to develop psychological health. So a pastoral community counselor heals the mind. We are spirit-driven. We are concerned with human relationships. And we use therapeutic methods. A pastoral counselor has theological principles. We understand the individual and family dynamics. We guide, we sustain, we reconcile, and we liberate. The American Association of Pastoral Community Counselors says the roles of a pastoral community counselor represents a God who is aligned. So the promise of the discipline is comfort, spiritual practices, service, social action, and worship. One of the things that intrigued me to be a PCC is the idea that The practice is a defense of human life, the dignity of personhood, the sanctity of marriage and family, the excellence in client service, having ethical integrity, and respecting everyone encountered. So this study is significant because it addresses what pastoral counselors do. The themes I derived based on my review of literature and conducting the semi-structured interviews were the types of careers pastoral community counselors do. Most people in the discipline are satisfied. They explain to me the roles, the values, what distinguishes pastoral community counseling, views of faith, the day-to-day routines, and so on. So my research accepted the question. The first question was, what factors affect decision to select a PCC? Well, the first is a pastoral counselor response where there are psychological services needed. 2, a pastoral counselor should be selected because they encourage our common heritage. A pastoral counselor educates clients about religious, psychological interventions. We use religion, psychology, cultural, social, economic needs, and resources that are specific to the client. So in terms of awareness of pastoral community counseling, it tells us to appreciate cultural diversity, to understand cultural and economic privilege, cultural disadvantage, and poverty. A PCC addresses self-management. We develop identities that transcend the differences between our own and other groups. Because all people need to believe they are unique and valued and respected in their own right. The second research question has to do with awareness of values and norms. With a pastoral community counselor, we try to understand the client's ethnic and cultural background. We adapt to context. We reinforce self-awareness. We understand values of freedom and responsibility. We distinguish between generational conflict and culture gaps. Question number 3, how does a pastoral counselor develop a client's faith? Well, if you have a conversation with a PCC, you can tell the roles of a pastoral community counselor. So a way to measure how a pastoral counselor contributes is to understand that diversity exists and to understand and respect fundamental differences among people in all relationships, family, friendship, intimate or workplace. Our actions are qualified in a physical and spiritual fashion with a free of charge from a PCC. So my research summary is extensive on the study. The ways pastoral counselors work, we use prayer, interdependence of others. We help people to become aware of spiritual realities that include God. We understand and celebrate rituals, symbols, dance, music. We use genograms. We discuss values, thoughts, experiences of each generation. And for kids that don't talk, you can try sculpting, When a family sculpts, that's a way to create understanding. Drawing is also another way a pastoral community counselor works. So, in conclusion, I have talked about my perspective of why the discipline of pastoral counseling is important. And I've shared my research on the question of what factors lead to the decision to select pastoral counseling. I described the problem. Some don't know what the services are that a PCC provides. I discussed the significance of the study, the literature review, the methodological analysis, and the research themes. What I want to leave you with is a discussion of where do we go from here when it comes to the spiritual outcomes of pastoral community counseling. Pastoral community counselors provide the gift of presence. Come see me. We provide the gift of emotional intelligence. We help people to regulate anxiety, anger, and so on. We discuss cognitive restructuring. Sometimes the way we think or a client thinks about a problem or their understanding of it can mean the essence of cognitive structuring. With pastoral counselors, we have creative indifference. We have the gift of heart. We develop faith. We discuss values. We look at family processes from ethical perspectives. We offer help and healing. So again, I ask my viewers, there is so much to say about our common humanity. But today's perspective has been about pastoral community counseling. Personally, a way to end this topic is that my understanding is that being a PCC teaches one how to learn to be good. We value grace. We learn about spiritual freedom. We open ourselves to God and the gifts of grace and love. So visit or contact Alusine Multicultural Family Counseling, which has a pastoral community counseling approach. We discuss communication. We discuss education. So once again, if you need a friend or someone to talk to, subscribe also on YouTube, Dr. Alusine Kanu. Finally, to all my prospective clients and to all my sponsors who will subscribe on YouTube, I want to say my perspective is not to impose, because I try first to understand the problem before I try to change everybody. But thank God, I'm a doctor of education in Pastoral Community Counseling. Thank you, and may God bless us all.